Amendment was ratified, banning the manufacture and sale of alcohol in the United States. A reform backed by women's temperance groups, certain Protestant denominations, the reborn Ku Klux Klan, and some progressives. But as with the war on drugs later in the century, alcohol remained readily available for all who wanted it. And the war on alcohol ended up producing fantastic profits for a new stratum of criminals dominated by Italian, Irish, and Jewish immigrant gangs. Smedley Butler had seen some of the worst of the violence of World War I and the corruption that had ensued. But now on sabbatical from the military, he was assigned the streets of Philadelphia.
Cleaning up Philadelphia was harder than any battle I was ever in.
Butler closed 600 speakeasies, including 2 patronized by the city's elite who had him fired. Other repressive aspects of the new American life included immigration reform laws that imposed strict quotas on Southern and Eastern Europeans and entirely banned immigration from Japan, China, and East Asia. Anti-Semitism infested post-war America. Some associated Jews with communism and radicalism. Others thought Jews exerted too much influence in Hollywood, business, and academia. Top universities like Harvard slashed admission of freshman Jews from 28% in 1925 to 12% in 1933. Other measures were taken to eliminate undesirables. In 1911, as governor of New Jersey, eugenics enthusiast Woodrow Wilson had signed a law authorizing sterilization of convicts, epileptics, and the feeble-minded. Over the following decades, some 60,000 Americans would be sterilized, more than a third of them in California. Sexually active women were particularly targeted. Future German leader Adolf Hitler followed U.S. developments closely and claimed to model some of his own master race strategies on U.S. programs that he lauded but criticized for only going halfway. He would go further, much further. Between 1920 and 25, 3 to 6 million Americans joined the racist, anti-Semitic, anti-Catholic Ku Klux Klan, which dominated politics in Indiana, Colorado, Oregon, Oklahoma, and Alabama, and sent hundreds of delegates to the 1924 Democratic Convention. It is astonishing to think that in 1925, 250,000 people watched 35,000 Klansmen march and rally through Washington, D.C. Hatred stalked the heartland. 14-year-old Henry Fonda, later a movie star, recalled watching a lynching in Omaha, Nebraska from his father's printing plant.
Put them up.
It was the most horrendous sight I'd ever seen. We locked the plant, went downstairs, and drove home in silence.
Finish it.
All I could think of was that young black man dangling at the end of a rope.
Hundreds more African Americans would suffer a similar fate, often advertised widely in advance and memorialized on postcards and in sound recordings. Lynchings became perverse rituals of desecration, replete with dismemberment and castration, and preserving body parts as souvenirs. Backwoods Bible colleges proliferated. Anti-intellectualism abounded. In 1925, a Tennessee schoolteacher named John Thomas Scopes was prosecuted, convicted, and fined for teaching Darwin's evolution theories in school. World War I marked the ascendancy of the U.S. and Japan, the war's 2 real victors. It had brought America an unprecedented collusion of bankers, businessmen, and government officials in an attempt to fix the economy and guarantee profits. By 1925, the U.S. was producing over 70% of the world's oil, which had powered the Allied wartime navies, airplanes, tanks, and other motorized vehicles. New York had replaced London as the center of the world economy, its size exceeding that of its next 6 rivals combined: Britain, France, Germany, Italy, the Soviet Union, and Japan. Cynical and disillusioned from a brutal war, people were hungry to live at a level and experience life in a way they had never done before. A new materialism reigned based on credit, radios, movie palaces, and a new golden age of advertising that perfected the capitalist art form of manipulating not only consumer hopes and fantasies, but also fears and insecurities. Henry Ford sold 15 million Model Ts before switching in 1927 to the more fashionable Model A. Jazz, with its roots in the African-American South, became wildly popular. Flappers, petting, speakeasies, the Harlem Renaissance, sports. Wild new movies with and without sound flourished. Rebellious younger writers came on the scene. New expressionism in the works of E. E. Cummings, John Dos Passos, T.S. Eliot, Ernest Hemingway, Ezra Pound, William Faulkner, Lawrence Stallings, Sinclair Lewis, Eugene O'Neill, Willa Cather, Langston Hughes, and Dalton Trumbo. Many of them went to Europe. F. Scott Fitzgerald wrote in 1920,
"Here was a new generation, grown up to find all gods dead, all wars fought, all faiths in man shaken."
Gertrude Stein, a lesbian writer living in Paris, famously commented, "All of you young people who served in the war, you are a lost generation."